Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
Kamari's senses were enveloped in darkness as rough hands guided him through an unknown labyrinth. Each step was a cautious tap in the void, his heart drumming against his chest. The air carried a heavy aroma. The blend of cheap alcohol and robust fragrances marked the territory of the fraternity he yearned to join. A deep voice, cutting through the dark, guided, "Step carefully. Pledge." Kamari's foot grazed a threshold, almost causing him to stumble. His odyssey began in the quiet hours before dawn, when senior members whisked him away from his dorm, speaking only in enigmatic hints about his forthcoming trial. All other initiates had faced their own mysterious tribulations, the price for a place in the Brotherhood.
"Near the climax we are,"
announced a voice with a mischievous lilt.
"Steady yourself, young one."
He was guided to a seat. The voices around him murmured, their numbers revealed at 5 or more. Kamari recognized it as belonging to Derek, the chapter president.
"We gather tonight to present Pledge Kamari Thomas with his ultimate challenge."
The blindfold was yanked away. Kamari blinked rapidly as his eyes adjusted to the dim light of what appeared to be a storage room in the basement of the frat house. 5 senior brothers stood in a semicircle around him, their faces illuminated by the light of a single lamp.
"Every pledge must prove
Their absolute loyalty and commitment to the Brotherhood," Derek continued, pacing slowly before him. He wore the fraternity's navy blue sweater with gold lettering.
"Your challenge, Pledge Kamari, is perhaps the most demanding we've ever issued."
One of the brothers stepped forward with a large plastic storage bin and placed it at Kamari's feet. With dramatic flair, he removed the lid. Kamari leaned forward and froze. Inside the container was a collection of women's clothing, makeup, and a long brown wig carefully arranged on a styrofoam head. "Meet Catherine," Derek said with a smirk. "Your new identity for the entire semester." Kamari's stomach dropped. "What?"
"You heard me."
Derek crossed his arms over his chest.
"To become a brother of Sigma Alpha Pi, you will live as Catherine for the entire semester. Classes, social events, family weekend,
everything." The other brothers were grinning now, clearly enjoying his discomfort. "This is a joke, right?" Kamari's voice cracked slightly. "Not at all." Derek pulled out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "The university has a strict anti-hazing policy, so, officially, this is a voluntary social experiment." He handed the paper to Kamari. "You'll sign this waiver indicating your willing participation." Kamari glanced at the document, the words swimming before his eyes. "The challenge is simple," continued Derek. "Convince everyone that you're actually a female student named Catherine Wilson. Attend all your classes, participate in campus activities, maintain the illusion at all times when in public."
"And if I refuse?"
Kamari managed to ask. The room fell silent. Derek's smile disappeared.
"Then, you're not Sigma Alpha Pi material. Challenge declined means pledge status revoked. Permanently."
Kamari stared at the bin of clothing. All his life, he'd dreamed of following in his cousin's footsteps, of joining the prestigious brotherhood that would set him up for life with connections and opportunities. Backing out wasn't an option.
"Fine,"
he said finally.
"I'll do it."
The brothers erupted in cheers and laughter, slapping each other on the back.
"Let's get started then,"
Derek said, checking his watch.
Tomorrow's Monday, and Catherine has an 8 a.m. class.
The transformation began immediately. 2 brothers who were theater majors took charge of the makeover, explaining techniques for applying foundation, concealer, and mascara. Another brother, whose sister was apparently a beauty pageant contestant, demonstrated how to walk in 3-inch heels without stumbling.
Smaller steps,
he instructed as Kamari wobbled across the room in a pair of black pumps.
And keep your knees together when you sit. No one's going to believe you're Catherine if you're manspreading in a skirt.
By 3 a.m., exhausted and overwhelmed, Kamari stared at his reflection in the full-length mirror. The person looking back was nearly unrecognizable. The brown wig's long waves cascaded past his shoulders, framing a face that had been expertly contoured to appear softer and more feminine. A pink sundress hugged his frame, which now featured subtle curves thanks to strategic padding.
Not bad,
Derek assessed, circling him critically.
We'll need to work on your voice, but the visual is convincing.
What about my dorm? Kamari asked, still struggling to process his new reality.
Already handled. We told Hazing you're participating in a semester-long exchange program. Your roommate thinks you left campus this morning.
You'll stay in the apartment we rent off campus for special projects. Kamari nodded slowly, wondering what other special projects had required an off-campus apartment.
Get some sleep, Catherine,
Derek said, emphasizing the name.
Tomorrow's your debut.
Morning arrived too quickly. Kamari awoke disoriented in the unfamiliar bedroom. For a moment, he forgot about the challenge, until he saw the brown wig on the nightstand and the open makeup case. Reality crashed down on him. This wasn't a nightmare. This was his life for the next 4 months. The apartment door opened, and a brother named Ryan entered carrying a tray with coffee and a bagel.
Rise and shine, Catherine,
he said cheerfully.
Makeup call in 30 minutes. Theo's coming over to help you get ready.
Kamari groaned, but dragged himself out of bed. His legs ached from hours of heel practice. Theo arrived promptly, carrying an additional bag of supplies.
Let's start with a close shave,
he said, herding Kamari into the bathroom.
Then we'll do your face. The pink sundress for today, I think. We want to make a memorable first impression.
2 hours later, Catherine emerged from the apartment building. The morning sun felt unusually warm on her exposed arms and legs. She clutched her textbooks to her chest like a shield as she navigated the brick pathways toward the science building.
Remember,
Ryan murmured, walking beside her as unofficial escort for her first day.
Smaller steps. Keep your voice soft. You've got this.
Students streamed past, hurrying to morning classes. Catherine kept her eyes down, terrified of being recognized. Her heart pounded so loudly she was certain everyone could hear it.
Relax,
Ryan said under his breath.
You look great. No one's going to suspect anything.
They reached the science building for her chemistry lecture. Ryan gave her an encouraging nod before peeling away.
Text me when class ends. I'll meet you for lunch.
Alone now, Catherine took a deep breath and entered the lecture hall. Students filled about half the seats, most looking groggy and disinterested at the early hour. She chose a seat in the middle row, not hiding in the back, but not drawing attention in the front either. As she arranged her notebook and pens, a guy in a red hoodie slid into the seat beside her.
Hey,
he said with a friendly smile.
I don't think I've seen you before. Are you new?
Catherine froze momentarily before remembering her cover story. Transfer student! She squeaked, then cleared her throat and tried again at a higher pitch. Just started this semester. Cool, I'm Daryl. He extended a hand. Catherine, she replied, shaking it gingerly, conscious of how her larger hand might give her away. Well, welcome to Professor Harmon's chem class. Fair warning, he speaks in a monotone that could put a caffeine addict to sleep. Catherine managed a smile. Thanks for the heads up. As the professor entered and began setting up, Daryl continued making small talk. Catherine answered cautiously, focusing on keeping her voice at an appropriate pitch without sounding cartoonish. By the time the lecture started, her initial panic had subsided slightly. This might actually be possible, she thought. Just take it one interaction at a time. The lecture passed in a blur of anxiety and concentration. When it ended, she gathered her things quickly, relieved to have survived the first hurdle. See you Wednesday? Daryl asked as she stood. Yes, see you then, she responded with what she hoped was a natural smile. Outside, Ryan was waiting as promised. How'd it go? I think... okay. A guy talked to me, but he didn't seem suspicious. Ryan grinned. I told you. The outfit and the hair change everything about how people see you. Come on, let's grab lunch. Days passed, then weeks. What had started as a horrifying challenge gradually became a strange new routine. Every morning, Catherine spent hours preparing, shaving, applying makeup, selecting outfits from the growing collection the brothers provided. Her walk became more natural, her voice more consistently feminine. The brothers monitored her progress, sometimes accompanying her to classes or campus events to ensure she maintained the deception. Derek made it clear that any slip-up, any moment when Kamari showed through Catherine's carefully constructed facade would mean failure. By mid-October, Catherine had settled into her new identity so thoroughly that sometimes she caught herself responding to the name even when alone in her apartment. Her wardrobe had expanded beyond sundresses to include jeans, blouses, sweaters, and even a formal dress for the upcoming university gala. The routine was demanding. Each day began at 5 a.m. to allow enough preparation time. Evening rituals were equally time-consuming. Removing makeup, caring for the brown wig, treating her skin to prevent breakouts from the constant cosmetic use. In her chemistry class, Daryl had become a regular study partner, often joining her at the library. She'd grown adept at deflecting personal questions about her past, creating a backstory about growing up in a small town in another state. We should celebrate finishing that lab report, Daryl suggested one Thursday afternoon as they packed up their books. Coffee tomorrow? Catherine hesitated. The brothers had warned her to maintain distance from anyone who might become too curious, but they'd also emphasized that acting normal included socializing. Sure, she agreed. The campus cafe at 3? Perfect. Daryl smiled in a way that made her suddenly aware that this might be more than a friendly coffee to him. That evening, she reported the interaction to Derek during their weekly check-in at the fraternity house.
Interesting,
he said, leaning back in his chair.
Daryl Fowler from the chemistry department.
Catherine nodded. He's in Alpha Phi Omega, our rivals. Derek's expression shifted from surprise to amusement.
This is priceless. He's actually hitting on you without a clue.
The other brothers who were present burst into laughter.
You should definitely go, said Ryan. Find out what APO is planning for homecoming week. This could be valuable intelligence.
Catherine frowned. I don't think...
It's part of the challenge, Derek interrupted firmly. Maintaining your cover in all social situations, unless you're backing out.
She sighed. No, I'll go. The coffee date with Daryl went surprisingly well. Catherine found herself genuinely enjoying his company, appreciating his intelligence and sense of humor in a way she might not have before this challenge began. He was respectful, never pushing for more information than she was comfortable sharing. As October turned to November, more social invitations followed. Study sessions, group lunches, and finally, an invitation to a party at the Alpha Phi Omega house.
It's our fall mixer,
Daryl explained as they walked across campus. He wore a blue jacket that complemented his dark complexion.
Nothing wild, just some music, snacks, hanging out.
Catherine nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. She'd chosen a deep burgundy sweater and black jeans for the evening, wanting to look nice without drawing too much attention. The brown wig was styled in loose waves, and she'd kept her makeup minimal but effective.
You look really beautiful tonight,
Daryl said suddenly, his voice sincere. A complicated emotion washed over her. The compliment wasn't for Kamari, but for Catherine, a person who both was and wasn't her. Yet somehow, it still felt good to hear. "Thank you," she replied softly. The Alpha Phi Omega house was less ostentatious than Sigma Alpha Pi's, but still impressive with its colonial architecture and manicured lawn. Music drifted through open windows as they approached. Inside, the party was in full swing. Students clustered in conversational groups throughout the main floor, holding red plastic cups and plates of food. Daryl introduced Catherine to several of his fraternity brothers, all of whom welcomed her warmly.
Catherine's the smartest person in our chem class,
Daryl told them, his hand resting lightly on her back.
Saved my grade on the last lab report.
She smiled, feeling oddly proud of the accomplishment. As the night progressed, Catherine found herself actually enjoying the party. She'd expected to be anxiously maintaining her cover all evening, but instead found herself genuinely engaged in conversations about classes, campus politics, and plans for winter break.
Want to get some air?
Daryl asked after they'd been there about an hour. She nodded, following him out to a small balcony overlooking the backyard. The November night was chilly, and she shivered slightly in her sweater. Without comment, Daryl removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The gesture was so naturally chivalrous that Catherine felt a pang of guilt about the deception.
"Thanks," she said. "Catherine."
Daryl turned to face her, his expression serious.
"I really like you. I know we haven't known each other that long, but there's something special about you."
The guilt intensified.
"Daryl, you don't have to say anything,"
he interrupted gently.
"I just wanted you to know."
Before she could respond, the balcony door swung open, and a group of laughing students spilled out, breaking the moment. Daryl smiled ruefully and stepped back. For the rest of the evening, Catherine found herself increasingly uncomfortable with the situation. This had gone well beyond a fraternity challenge into something that felt dangerously close to catfishing. Daryl had genuine feelings for someone who didn't actually exist. The next morning, Catherine met with Derek to report on the party. "He likes me," she stated bluntly.
"This is getting weird."
Derek chuckled.
"It's the ultimate proof that your performance is convincing. The APO guys have no clue they've got a Sigma Alpha Pi pledge in their midst."
"But it feels wrong," she insisted. "Daryl's a good guy. He doesn't deserve to be manipulated like this."
"The challenge continues as planned,"
Derek said firmly.
"In fact, the brothers and I have been discussing the final phase."
Catherine's stomach tightened. "Final phase?"
Family weekend is coming up next month. We want you to attend as Catherine, with your actual family. The blood drained from her face. You can't be serious.
Deadly serious. Your parents registered to attend months ago, right? They'll be expecting to see Kamari, but instead, they'll meet Catherine. Your ability to convince them to play along will be the ultimate test of your persuasiveness and commitment to the Brotherhood.
Catherine stood abruptly. No, that's too far. My parents wouldn't understand. They're traditional, conservative. They'd be horrified. Derek's expression hardened.
Then I guess you're not Sigma Alpha Pi material after all.
This isn't what I signed up for. You signed up to do whatever it takes to join our Brotherhood. If that's not something you're willing to do, then we have nothing more to discuss. Catherine stormed out of the meeting, her mind racing. The thought of revealing this deception to her parents made her physically ill. Her father, a retired military officer, had been so proud when she'd told him about pledging his alma mater. Her mother had already sent care packages addressed to my Sigma Alpha Pi son. Back in her apartment, she paced the floor, trying to think of alternatives. She could refuse the challenge and give up on joining the fraternity. She could come clean to Daryl and face his inevitable disgust and anger. Neither option seemed bearable. A knock at the door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. She opened it to find Ryan standing there, his expression concerned.
Derek told me what happened,
he said, stepping inside.
Look, I know the family weekend thing sounds extreme, but it's tradition. Every pledge in our special track has done it.
Special track?
Ryan looked uncomfortable. The gender swap challenge. We don't give it to everyone, just the pledges who show certain qualities.
What qualities? Catherine demanded. The ones who seem like they might enjoy it a little? Ryan shrugged awkwardly. We noticed how you looked at the clothing the first night. There was fear, yeah, but something else too. Curiosity, maybe. Catherine sank onto the couch, stunned by this assessment. That's ridiculous. Is it? Ryan sat beside her. Because from where I'm standing, you've taken to this challenge more thoroughly than any pledge before you. Your attention to detail, the way you've perfected Catherine's mannerisms, how natural you seem now compared to that first week. I just wanted to do it right, she whispered. Exactly. And that's why you're perfect for Sigma Alpha Pi. We go all in on everything we do. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. Think about it. What's one uncomfortable weekend with your parents compared to a lifetime brotherhood with us? After Ryan left, Catherine stood before the mirror, studying her reflection. The brown wig's waves framed a face that had become increasingly familiar. She no longer saw the awkward, fearful freshman from 2 months ago. The person looking back at her moved with confidence, held herself with grace. Was Ryan right? Had some part of her embraced this challenge beyond mere commitment to joining the fraternity? She thought about how it felt walking across campus as Catherine, the freedom from expectations that had followed Kamari his whole life, the different way people interacted with her, the unexpected ease she'd found in this new identity. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daryl. Had a great time last night. Dinner Tuesday? Catherine stared at the message, a decision crystallizing in her mind. Tuesday evening found Catherine waiting outside the campus restaurant, wearing a dark blue dress with a cardigan against the November chill. Her stomach fluttered with nerves, but not for the usual reasons. Tonight, she had made a decision. Daryl arrived precisely on time, his smile warming when he spotted her. You look amazing, he said. Thank you. She accepted his compliment with a small smile. Shall we go in? Over appetizers, they chatted about upcoming exams and holiday plans. Catherine found herself studying Daryl's face, appreciating his kindness and intelligence in a way that transcended her original mission.
Is everything okay?
He asked, noticing her pensive mood. You seem distracted. Catherine took a deep breath.
Daryl, there's something I need to tell you.
His expression grew concerned.
What is it?
I haven't been entirely honest with you. She twisted her napkin nervously. About who I am. Daryl waited patiently as she gathered her courage. My name is Kamari Thomas, she began softly. I'm a pledge at Sigma Alpha Pi. Confusion crossed his face. I don't understand. Slowly, carefully, she explained everything. The challenge, the transformation, the months of deception. As she spoke, Daryl's expression cycled through disbelief, shock, and finally, a carefully controlled anger.
So this whole time, our friendship, all of it, it was just some fraternity stunt?
His voice was tight. It started that way, she admitted. But somewhere along the line, something changed. The person you've gotten to know, Catherine, she's become real to me in ways I never expected. Daryl stood abruptly.
I need some air.
Catherine remained at the table, heart pounding as she watched him walk outside. After giving him a few minutes, she followed. He stood with his back to the restaurant, staring up at the night sky. I'm sorry, she said, stopping a few feet away. You have every right to hate me.
I don't hate you,
he replied without turning. I'm just trying to process this. Did Derek put you up to this specifically because I'm APO? No, she said honestly. That was just coincidence. Or bad luck. Daryl finally turned to face her.
And now? Was telling me the truth part of their game too? No. They'd be furious if they knew. According to their rules, I've just failed the challenge and thrown away my chance at membership. So why tell me?
Catherine swallowed hard.
Because I couldn't keep lying to you.
Because what started as a deception became something else. Because I realized that Catherine isn't just a disguise. She's part of who I am. Daryl studied her face for a long moment. What does that mean exactly? I'm still figuring that out, she admitted. But I know that I want to keep being Catherine, regardless of any fraternity challenge. And I wanted you to know the truth before anything else happened between us. A complicated series of emotions played across Daryl's features.
This is a lot to take in.
I know, and if you want nothing more to do with me, I understand completely. I don't know what I want right now, he said honestly. I need time to think. Catherine nodded. Of course. They parted ways without resolving anything, Catherine returning to her apartment with a strange mix of dread and relief swirling inside her. She had potentially destroyed both her chance at joining Sigma Alpha Pi and her relationship with Daryl in one evening. Yet somehow, the weight that had been pressing on her chest for weeks felt lighter. The next morning, Catherine woke to a barrage of angry texts from Derek, demanding she come to the fraternity house immediately. Apparently, Daryl had contacted his own fraternity president, who had called Derek to verify the story. She dressed carefully in a burgundy sweater and jeans, applied her makeup, and arranged the brown wig with the same attention to detail she always did. Whatever happened next, she would face it as Catherine. Derek was waiting in his office, his face thunderous.
"What the hell were you thinking?"
he demanded as soon as she entered. "I was thinking that I'm done with the manipulation," she replied calmly. "The challenge went too far." "You've ruined everything! Do you have any idea how this makes us look? APO is already filing a complaint with the university board." Catherine took a seat without being invited. "I'm sure they are, and I'll take full responsibility for my part in it." Derek paced the room, running his hands through his hair.
"You've thrown away your chance at brotherhood over some misplaced guilt."
"Maybe," she acknowledged. "Or maybe I've discovered something more important."
"What's that supposed to mean?"
Catherine met his gaze steadily. "It means that becoming Catherine wasn't just a challenge for me. It was a revelation." Derek stared at her, comprehension slowly dawning.
"Wait, are you saying—"
"I'm saying that I'm keeping the name, the identity, all of it. This started as your challenge, but it's my life now." The stunned silence that followed was broken by a knock at the door. Ryan entered without waiting for a response, his expression grave.
"The university president's office just called. They want to see all chapter officers immediately."
He noticed Catherine and hesitated.
"You too, apparently."
Derek swore under his breath.
"This is a disaster."
"I'll tell them it was all my idea," Catherine offered. "That you guys had nothing to do with it."
"Like they'd believe that."
Derek scoffed.
"No, we're all going down for this one."
The meeting with university administration was as difficult as expected. The university president, the dean of students, and the Greek life coordinator listened as both fraternities presented their sides of the story. Catherine spoke last, explaining her willing participation initially and her eventual decision to come clean.
"While I don't condone the nature of this challenge,"
the president said carefully,
"I am concerned about the coercive environment it created."
"Mr. Thomas. Ms. Wilson, actually," Catherine interrupted gently. "Catherine Wilson." The president blinked in surprise.
"Miss Wilson, then. Are you saying your identity as Catherine is genuine?"
"Yes," she replied without hesitation. "What began as a fraternity challenge became a journey of self-discovery. I'm transgender, and through this experience I've finally found the courage to acknowledge that." The room fell silent. Derek and the other Sigma Alpha Pi officers exchanged confused glances.
"I see,"
the president said finally.
"That does put a different perspective on matters."
After further discussion, it was decided that both fraternities would be placed on probation for the remainder of the academic year. Sigma Alpha Pi would be required to completely restructure their pledging process under university supervision. No one would be expelled, but the incident would go on record. As they left the administration building, Derek pulled Catherine aside. Was that true? About being transgender? Or just a clever way to avoid harsher penalties? She looked him directly in the eyes.
"It was true. Maybe the only completely honest thing in this whole mess."
Derek's anger seemed to deflate.
"So, all this time—"
"I didn't know until I lived it," she explained. "Your challenge gave me permission to explore a side of myself I'd always suppressed." He shook his head in disbelief.
"Hell of a plot twist, pledge."
"I'm not your pledge anymore," she reminded him. "No, I guess you're not." He hesitated, then extended his hand.
"Good luck, Catherine."
She shook it firmly. "Thank you, Derek." Family weekend arrived 2 weeks later. Catherine had spent hours on the phone with her parents, explaining everything that had happened. The challenge, her revelation, her decision to live authentically as Catherine going forward. Their initial shock and confusion had been painful to navigate, but by the end of that difficult conversation, they had promised to try to understand. Whether they would actually accept her remained to be seen. She waited nervously at the campus welcome center, wearing a simple blue dress that she hoped struck the right balance between feminine and conservative. Her brown hair was styled in a neat bob, her makeup tasteful and understated. When she spotted her parents entering the building, her heart leapt into her throat. Her father, tall and military straight in his pressed khakis, scanned the room with an expression she couldn't read. Her mother, petite and elegant in a cream-colored sweater set, clutched her purse tightly. Catherine raised her hand in a small wave. Her mother saw her first, nudging her father. They approached slowly, uncertainty in every step. "Mom, Dad," Catherine greeted them, her voice shaking slightly. "Thank you for coming." Her father studied her face intently, searching for the son he had known.
"Kamari,"
he said, then stopped himself. "Catherine." "It's still me, Dad," she said softly. "Just the real me." Her mother reached out tentatively and touched the sleeve of Catherine's dress. "The color suits you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Always did look good in blue." It wasn't acceptance yet, but it was acknowledgement, a starting point. Catherine felt tears pricking at her eyes. "There's a nice cafe on campus," she suggested. "We could sit and talk?" Her father nodded stiffly.
"Lead the way."
As they walked across campus, Catherine spotted Daryl coming out of the science building. They hadn't spoken since her confession, but he had sent a brief text after the university hearing. "Need time to process, but I don't hate you." He noticed her with her parents and hesitated before approaching.
"Catherine,"
he greeted her with a cautious smile.
"Are these your parents?"
"Yes," she replied, hope fluttering in her chest at his use of her chosen name. "Mom, Dad, this is Daryl. He's in my chemistry class." They exchanged polite greetings. Before leaving, Daryl turned to Catherine. "Study group tomorrow at the library? Your notes on the Henderson equation were better than the professor's explanation." "I'll be there," she promised, unable to contain her smile. As Daryl walked away, she caught her mother watching her with dawning understanding. They continued toward the cafe, the future uncertain but full of possibilities. What had begun as a fraternity's cruel challenge had revealed a truth she might have spent years denying. Catherine walked between her parents, no longer pretending, no longer hiding, simply being herself for the first time. The campus paths stretched before her, lined with trees shedding their autumn leaves. Students hurried past, wrapped in scarves against the November chill. Catherine took a deep breath of the crisp air, feeling truly present in her body for perhaps the first time.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!